Point of order, the Honourable Government House Leader.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given what happened earlier today, I would like to inform the House that notwithstanding, there will not be any ministers' the Finance Minister's statement at 4 p.m. today.
Honourable point of order, the Honourable Member from Perth Wellington.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As you would know, that was an order of the House that the Minister is trying to unilaterally withdraw. I seek the guidance from you and the table whether a Minister of the Crown can withdraw a unilateral order of this House to prevent the government from making a statement. I'm looking for your advice, obviously, Mr. Speaker, that the government, due to their own disorder and chaos, can now unilaterally withdraw an order of this House of such magnitude, Mr. Speaker.
Good point. Thank the Honourable Member. I
see the Honourable Member from Berthier-Masquinongé. Point of order. On the same point of order, Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois would also like to have clarification on the matter. We heard an order that there would be a full economic statement at 4 p.m. We are here to listen and react. The content has been published in camera. What we're asking, Mr. Speaker, is the right to ask questions, to ask for clarifications, and for that, the term chaos was used. I think that's the right term. In all of this chaos, what will happen? We need to know what's going on, Mr. Speaker.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Honourable Member from Perth Wellington and aussi l'Honourable Député
and the Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé for having raised important points of order. I would like to paraphrase the motion adopted by the House on the 11th of December. I'll read it in French and then repeat it in English. Unanimous consent orders that, notwithstanding any special or standing order of the House or any usage of the House, at 4 p.m. on Monday, 16th of December 2024, the Speaker will interrupt House deliberations to allow the Deputy Prime Minister to make a statement, after which there would be 10 minutes for questions and observations after that statement. A member of each recognized official opposition party and a member of the Green Party will be able to have a question and answer period equivalent to the time spent by the Minister in his or her statement.
By unanimous consent, it was ordered that notwithstanding any standing order, special order, or usual practice of the House, at 4 p.m. on Monday, December 16, 2024, the Speaker shall interrupt the proceedings to permit the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance to make a statement, followed by a period of up to 10 minutes for question and comments. After the statement, a member from each recognized opposition party and a member of the Green Party may reply for a period of approximately equivalent to the same time taken by the Minister's statement, and each statement shall be followed by a period of 10 minutes for questions and comments. Alors, comme l'ordre a été adopté.
This order being adopted by the House, there is now leave to give the Minister and Deputy Prime Minister to present the fall economic statement. But the order is for the chair to interrupt at 4.
So, just so that members all understand, as it was very clear in the order that was adopted by the House, the order was for the Speaker to interrupt proceedings at 4 o'clock to permit to Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. So it's a permissive situation here. The order is for me to stand up at 4 o'clock, which I shall do. The Honourable Member from York Simcoe. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just for the opposition, could you clarify who the Deputy Prime Minister is and who the Minister of Finance is at this time?
I'm afraid I cannot respond to the honourable member of that, and that question would not be a question that would be posed to the Speaker. That would one that would be posed on to the government. L'honorable député de Berthier-Mascon.
The honourable member for Berthier-Masquinongé, rising on a point of order. Mr. Speaker, on the same point of order, Mr. Speaker, I would like to say for the record, for the Hansard, that it shows a real lack of respect and it's unacceptable. It's a lack of respect towards all Quebecers and towards all MPs. I'm not speaking of you, but I'm speaking of what's coming from the government here. It makes no sense. It's total chaos. And it proves, Mr. Speaker, that this government is completely dysfunctional. And that sooner or later, or sooner rather than later, we should have an election. This proves that.
Before I recognize honourable members who are rising on a point of order, comme il est 16 heures,
it being 4 p.m., pursuant to order made Wednesday, December 11th, 2024, I am required to interrupt the proceedings to permit the Minister of Finance to make a statement.
Given the information provided by the Government House Leader to the House, indicating that the Government does not intend to proceed with the statement at this time, the remaining provisions of this motion cannot take effect. That is, the period reserved for questions and comments and the replies from the various parties which are dependent on the statement being made. Puisqu'aucune déclaration ne sera...
In the absence of a statement, the House will resume the business that would normally be before it at this time.
Orders of the day, ordre du jour, but I will go to points of order raised by the Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby, followed by the Honourable Member for Sandwich Gulf Islands.
Mr. Speaker, this has been a chaotic day, but the reality is this is an order of the House that can't be countermanded by the government. Our expectation is that the Finance Minister will be in this House to present the fall economic statement. That is what New Democrats are prepared for. That is what we want to comment and criticize, and that is why we are here. This can't be countermanded by the government itself. Parliament must be respected, and Mr. Speaker, you must uphold the motion that was adopted unanimously by this House.
Hear, hear.
I see that the Honourable Member for Sandwich Gulf Islands is rising on her feet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this is not to make the same point as my honourable colleague for New Westminster Burnaby, but given that it was a moment where the Speaker had to stop at 4 o'clock and seek the presentation, I suggest to Mr. Speaker, we're in a really difficult quandary here as opposition party members. We were given access on a confidential, embargoed lockup basis to read the document which we now are not to hear. I'm in a quandary, Mr. Speaker, and I think the honourable table officers have many volumes in front of them. But unless they have a volume of Lewis Carroll, I don't know if they can answer my question. Am I allowed to talk about the document that isn't happening?
Good question.
So I'm going to listen. Order. I'm going to listen to the points of order from various members before I come back to members. So the Honourable Member for Regina Capella is on his feet on a point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I just want to go over the facts of this case. Last week, a few days ago, the government House Leader negotiated in good faith with all the opposition parties a process by which the fall economic update could be tabled in the House. We all agreed on that. That was not something that was going to happen automatically. It took the participation of all parliamentary parties to allow that to happen. We agreed in good faith. We expected it to happen. Everything that has happened today has been entirely of the government's own making. And parliamentarians should not be deprived of the information as to what is the fiscal situation here in Canada. Canadians are facing an unprecedented crisis on housing, on inflation, on debt and deficits. And this government has a statutory obligation to table these documents by the end of the year. This is the second last sitting day. And you have just denied a request for an emergency debate on this very same issue. There is no other opportunity for parliamentarians to find out just how bad the books are. But I go back to the point as to the fact that the government themselves initiated this agreement. The government committed to opposition parties that it would happen today. And so I ask you, Mr. Speaker, the fact that they are in chaos is not the problem of parliamentarians. It is a problem for Canadians, but it is not a problem caused by Canadians. And they have a right to know exactly what's happening with their tax dollars. And now for the government to come in at literally the last minute and pull the carpet out of an economic update is unbelievable. It is not the actions of a serious G7 NATO partner country. So at the very least, Mr. Speaker, I ask that you find the government in contempt of the House order that was passed by all members of this place.
I thank the Honourable from Regina Capel. I see the Honourable Member from Calgary Nose Hill is also rising on a point of order.
There are people who, there are businesses who are trying to think about making decisions based on what was supposed to be in there today. We have senior economists who have been waiting for this information. Literally the entire nation's business has been waiting for this. All of us who are in this place have the right to see these finances. This is why we're here. It's almost to the point of a violation of our privilege to not be able to see this, frankly. We're being asked to vote on things without a finance minister on the day that a budget was being tabled. This is not what a serious government does. So we need to have this information today. It's borderline privilege. And again, as the Deputy House, or as the House Leader said, this is a contempt of Parliament of the utmost magnitude.
Thank the Honourable Member from Calgary Nose Hill for her intervention. I'm going to recognize a number of other points of order. The Honourable L'Honorable Député de Berthier et Masquinongé.
The Honourable Member for Berthier Masquinongé. Well, on this point of order, the motion adopted on December 11th states that the Speaker will interrupt deliberations, not the Speaker may interrupt. So we feel that it is an obligation to interrupt orders of the day. They seem to have nothing to say, but the lockup is over. Currently, outside the House of Commons, journalists are revealing the content of the fall economic statement. And yet, are we seriously to be told that we don't deserve to know what's in it? And that we won't be able to respond and we won't be able to question it for our constituents? Seriously, Mr. Speaker, very unparliamentary language is coming to my mind. I won't use that language, but this doesn't make any darn sense. This is a serious matter of an attack on parliamentary privilege. The members of this House deserve to hear the content. And if the government doesn't have the courage to present this statement, they should at least table it. I have colleagues who are at the lockup who will be able to respond to the content. But we demand an opportunity to respond and to speak on behalf of the rights of our constituents.
There are at least three more points of order which I would like to hear, starting with the Honourable Member from South Shore St. Margaret's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will try and add to what's already been said. Obviously, not only do certain parliamentarians already have access to it, and most of us don't, journalists have access to it already. That will leak. There is a precedent, Mr. Speaker, which is in the mid to late 1980s when then Finance Minister Michael Wilson's printed budget leaked, and there is a printed budget that's available to be tabled now, or a fall economic statement. They can table those documents now. When it was leaked, the Minister of Finance had to go to the press gallery because the House wasn't sitting in the evening and actually deliver the full budget so that parliamentarians could get access. This is a similar situation in that you now have select people, some whom are not parliamentarians, have access to those documents, and I personally believe it's a breach of my privilege that a journalist has access to those documents, and I do not. When the government can simply table the budget, the fall economic statement documents in the House now without giving the speech.
Here, here.
So I thank the honourable member from South Shore St. Margaret's. Indeed, he and I are of the same vintage, and I do remember that. I think it was 1989. I will recognize the honourable member from Calgary Bow River.
This is my point of privilege that's been infringed on by what has been done. And I feel that this is a very grave injustice for people to have had this information, to come in with minutes before it announced, when those people had the document, were able to go out and use it and have had read it. My privilege has already been broken. Thank you.
Thank the honourable from Calgary Bow River. I see that the honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons is rising on her feet.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 32, I have the honour to table in both official languages the Fall Economic Statement 2024.
I see that the honourable member from Perth Wellington is rising on his feet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Now that the fall economic statement has been tabled, I believe we do now proceed to questions to the minister. So I'd like to ask the government to stand in this place and tell us exactly how big the budget deficit was last year. How much did they blow past the $40 billion? Is it a big deficit or is it a super duper deficit?
Order. Order, please. I see that there are a couple of other members who are rising on a point of order. The honourable member from Kitchener Centre was first on his feet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now that the fall economic statement has been tabled, I wonder if there might be unanimous consent for all parties to have a 20-minute round of speeches and 10 minutes of questions and answers, as was already planned to be the case.
Can I have the I'm going to ask the honourable member from Kitchener Centre to please repeat his request for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wonder if there might be unanimous consent of the House to now have all parties offered the opportunity for 20 minutes for a speech and 10 minutes of question and answer afterwards, including the Green Party.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. The honourable, I regret to say that the order, I understand that there isn't unanimous consent. I'm going to ask the honourable member from Regina Capel, who is rising on a point of order. The opposition House Leader is on his feet.
Mr. Speaker, And I just want to remind you that the order that the House adopted was very, very specific. And notwithstanding any standing order, special order, usual practice of the House, at 4 p.m. on Monday, December 16th, the Speaker shall interrupt the proceedings to permit the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, to make a statement followed by a period of up to 10 minutes for questions and comments. After the statement, a member from each recognized opposition party, a member of the Green Party, may reply for a period approximately equal to the time taken by the Minister's statement. So a Minister of the Crown just came in and made a statement. Her statement was that she was tabling the fall economic update. That is the statement. At the very least, Mr. Speaker, there should now be a 10-minute period of questions and comments. She chose to have a very short statement. Nothing we can do about that. She came in, tabled, and then ran out before there could be any accountability or scrutiny. I believe the most logical thing for the chair to do is to accept that as the statement that it was, which I would say is a perfect statement on the state of the Liberal government right now. And at the very least, allow opposition parties and opposition members to ask questions of the government as to what was in that statement, as to what was in the fall economic update. Yes.
I thank the honourable member. I see that the honourable government House Leader is rising on a point of order. The honourable government, the parliamentary secretary of the government House Leader is rising on a point of order.
Government House Leader stood actually on a point of order, tabled documents. It's as simple as that.
So I thank the honourable government House Leader. Indeed, that was where the chair was going to go, but I do see that there are a number of members who are rising on a point of order. I have not heard the honourable leader of the House Leader of the NDP who is rising on his order, the honourable member from New Westminster Burnaby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I mean, this is a fundamental tenet of parliamentary democracy and transparency and accountability. We've just had the tabling of the document. So if you seek it, anyone respecting democracy should support the following motion, that notwithstanding any standing order, special order, or usual practice of the House, immediately following the adoption of this motion, the Speaker shall interrupt the proceedings to permit one member from each recognized opposition party and a member of the Green Party to make a statement of up to 20 minutes, followed by a period of up to 10 minutes for questions and comments related to the fall economic statement.
Hear, hear.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. I see that the honourable member from I was going to say the honourable member from Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola, is up on his feet.
Mr. Speaker, there's $61.9 billion of extra spending in here. And the fact is, I came prepared at my seat at the time. You went through in great detail exactly the process for the fall economic statement. And the government has reneged. A drop-off drive-by of a tabling where the minister spun around and walked right out. That is contemptuous of the agreed-to motion that we would all be here today to undertake a democratic scrutiny of the government. The government cannot pick and choose its role. It is subservient to this House. I would ask you find them in contempt, Mr. Speaker, because obviously the government is not prepared to allow any other process. This was something, Mr. Speaker, that makes not only myself and this whole House look bad, it looks terribly upon you. I would ask that you would defend our rights as parliamentarians and force the government through a mechanism, perhaps a contempt motion, that they have been found in contempt in their duties to this House.
L'honorable from Cumberland Colchester, sorry, not Cumberland Colchester, from Dufferin Caledon, forgive me, is up on his feet on a point of order. The honourable member.
Speaker, the regular proceedings today were interrupted for an order. It is a mandatory order. There are different kinds. The language could have said may. May is permissive language. And if the order said may, you would have discretion as to how to proceed. Right. But the proceedings were interrupted in the face of a specific order. And the order says the Speaker shall interrupt the proceedings to permit the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance to make a statement, followed by a period of up to 10 minutes. If they chose not to use their time to make a statement, that is their problem. You are bound by a mandatory order to now give us the opportunity that is set out in this. It's not permissive, it's not optional. It's mandatory, and we, as opposition members, expect you to follow and enforce your mandatory order.
Hear, hear.
So I thank the honourable member, and the Speaker and the Chair is placed in a situation where very much has to follow what is listed here. And I thank the honourable member from Dufferin-Caledon for quoting this statement. I will just say it, that yes, the Speaker shall interrupt, which the Speaker did. But here's what it is. Shall interrupt the proceedings to permit the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance to make a statement, followed by a period of up to 10 minutes for questions and comments. After the statement, a member from each recognized opposition party and a member of the Green Party may reply for a period of approximately equivalent of to the time taken by the Minister's statement, and each statement will be or shall be followed by a period of 10 minutes for questions and comments. The difficulty that the Chair finds itself in is that the motion is a permissive motion. The Minister chose not to make a statement, by which the rest of the order doesn't follow. But I'm going to be listening to a number of honourable members to hear about this, and there are a number of members who are on the feet for a point of order. On va commencer avec le député.
Let us begin with the member for Berthier-Masquinongé, followed by the member for Louis-Saint-Laurent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With all due respect, Mr. Speaker, I feel that the motion compelled you to stop the proceedings, which you did do, but Mr. Speaker, the government chose not to speak to the fall economic statement, but that should not challenge the rights of other parties to speak to the statement and then have questions and answers. And I don't believe you need unanimous consent to proceed to that order of business. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect that I have for you and your office, you have the authority to decide on this. You can choose how long our statements would be and how long questions and answers would be. But there do need to be speeches, Mr. Speaker. Currently, outside this House, journalists are commenting on the content of the fall economic statement. We, parliamentarians, are not being given the privilege of commenting on the statement. So, Mr. Speaker, please, I seriously urge you to consider the fact that you have the authority and the right to permit such a debate. You could even, if you like, Mr. Speaker, suspend the House for a few moments to consult with House employees and clerks to know exactly what procedure to follow. But, Mr. Speaker, you have the duty to preserve some semblance of democracy in a G7 country, need I remind this House. I have many colleagues who have opinions and who are more than willing to comment on the fall economic statement. If the government does not wish to comment on the economic statement, then that's fine. But you, Mr. Speaker, have the right to give us the right to speak. I see that the honourable member for Joliette is rising on the same point of order. Yes, Mr. Speaker, on the same point of order. I've spent the past few hours in a budget lockup to study the budget documents and to prepare to speak in this House because there was an agreement where I would be able to speak on behalf of my party. I sat down with colleagues and with a team so that we could sit down, study the documents, prepare our stance and position, and prepare to present said position to the House. I think all parties should be allowed to share their position with regard to the economic statement. Now, too bad, so sad for the government if they don't want to or if they can't speak to the statement, but we are ready and willing to speak to the statement, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Hamilton Centre is rising on a point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I know it's not often I get a chance to do this, but I did feel it important to rise and actually concur with the opposition MPs who have stood in this House on multiple occasions to call on you to bring this government to order, to present to this country what their vision of the future is so that we can have an adequate debate. I find it rather gormless that they came into this House, dropped the report, and then left without an opportunity for us to debate here today. Mr. Speaker, I am prepared to listen to the member from Vancouver Kingsway present our party's vision for the future of this country, and I know that the other opposition parties will also have their vision. That is what a Westminster system is designed for. So for them to pretend like they can come here, Mr. Speaker, and there has been disorder in this House, but certainly nothing more chaotic than what we've witnessed over the last hour here. So I call on you, in concordance with members of the Bloc, the Conservative Party, and indeed the Green Party, to bring this government to order and allow us to have a full debate on the fall economic statement. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
I thank the honourable member, and I understand the honourable member's frustration in this situation, but the chair is bound by the decision that was passed by the House. And after much debate and consultation, I have to follow the as things are set out in the House, in the order that was made by the House. I interrupted the proceedings. The minister chose not to make a statement, and therefore the rest of the motion doesn't apply. But I see, je vois que l'honorable.
I see the honourable member for Berthier-Masquinongé rising on a point of order.
Monsieur le Président, merci.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me the floor once again. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, we disagree with your current decision and your current interpretation of the situation. Here is what I propose, Mr. Speaker. There is a majority of the House here in agreement. This is unbelievable. I'm not allowed to say who is or is not in the House, but I can say in a roundabout way that there aren't many representatives of the government caucus in this place at this moment. This is shocking. It's unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. We cannot ignore this. Mr. Speaker, this would be a good opportunity for the chair to earn the trust and confidence of a majority of this House by showing us how seriously you take this. We should have a vote on this matter, on how we wish to proceed, and I think the vote would pass. I think it would pass, because currently the media gets to comment on this, but we don't. It makes no sense. It's nonsense. Unfortunately, that is outside the bounds of my role as Speaker to deviate from an order adopted by the House of Commons. I have consulted with many table officers and experts regarding options on the table, but there are no options to proceed that way that was suggested. The honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby rising. Mr. Speaker, I hope that this time will be the right time. I hope that we will be able to speak to this document because its contents are incredibly important and we owe Canadians transparency. That is why we must debate this statement tabled in the House.
Notwithstanding any standing order, special order, or usual practice of the House, immediately following the adoption of this motion, the Speaker shall interrupt the proceedings to permit one member from each recognized opposition party and a member of the Green Party to make a statement of up to 20 minutes, followed by a period of up to 10 minutes for questions and comments related to the fall economic statement.
I thank the honourable member. All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. The honourable member from Hamilton Centre is rising on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, surely the honourable member from Winnipeg North would at least give the country the courtesy to rise in his space right now and to tell the rest of the country why he continues to shut down this debate.
The honourable member for Barrie Innisfil is on his feet on a point of order, followed by the honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like you to consider this as a matter of contempt of Parliament. The Finance Minister resigned this morning at 8 a.m. The economic statement was to be delivered at 4 p.m. this afternoon. The Prime Minister had ample opportunity to appoint another Finance Minister and a Deputy Minister and have them sworn in to issue the fall economic statement. So that, to me, Mr. Speaker, and I hope you agree, is a point of contempt. They knew that this motion was in place, that it was agreed to by all parties. They failed this Parliament and therefore failed Canadians, and I believe that they were in contempt, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The honourable member, I thank the honourable member. The honourable member from Vancouver Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the NDP finance critic, I have attended the lockup. I've read the fall economic statement, and I have gone to considerable length, along with my colleagues, to prepare the New Democrats' response to this. What I find patently unfair is that the government has chosen to release that document to the public at 4 o'clock. So that document, a very, very thick book of policies, is now circulating, but there's no opportunity for any other opposition person to have a comment on that, whether Conservative, Bloc, or New Democrat, or Green. And that is patently unfair. In fact, I would say that it's undemocratic. You can't allow the government to present its case and then not allow opposition to present their case in return. That may be how autocracies work. That is not how democracies work, Mr. Speaker. And I would ask that you allow a specified member from each party to have up to 20 minutes so that we can have our comment on this document, as the Liberals have. And I find it, frankly, a little bit infuriating that the government has allowed its voice to be heard in this document, but stands in this House and says no to allowing any other party to have their say. That is not democratic.
I believe the member for Louis Saint Laurent was rising and doesn't seem to be rising anymore.